Today I want to talk about brand new car prices as well as what's going on with the electrical vehicle market. Because as you probably know, the subsidies to buy electric vehicles ended in September, and now we are halfway through October, and there's some interesting trends starting to develop worldwide actually in regard to electric vehicles. And a lot of this has to do with car prices. So let's start off with that, because average brand new car prices recently just hit a record high of $50,000, guys. As of September of 2025, the average brand new car cost $50,080. And this is the first time in history that brand new car prices have ever exceeded $50,000, according to Kelley Blue Book. And according to Cox Automotive, they say the main three drivers of brand new cars costing so much are low loan rates, tariffs, and electric cars, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Speaking of electric cars, there's one passing by right now. And you know, what's interesting is the brand new car market is kind of mirroring what's happening with the overall economy. The other day we talked about how 10% of the wealthiest Americans are responsible for spending 50% of the money right now in our economy, which accounts for a major part of our GDP. Well, that's very synonymous with what's happening in real estate as well as the car market, because according to Cox Automotive, they also say that today's auto market is being driven by wealthier households who have access to capital, good loan rates, and are propping up the higher end of the market. Car loan debt, the amount of money that people have to finance to buy a car, has also reached record levels, and a growing number of car owners owe more on their vehicles than they're actually worth, which means they're underwater on their loan. More than 25% of brand new vehicle owners now owe more on their cars than they are worth and carry more than $10,000 in debt, according to a press release from Edmunds. And according to Edmunds, the reason for this is because people are trading up cars too quickly. Or a lot of people took out loans during the pandemic when prices were at record highs, and those choices are now catching up to them, making it harder to buy again without piling on even more debt. So these mistakes that people made during the pandemic continue to come back to haunt them. Everybody thought that they're never going to be able to buy a house, never going to be able to afford a brand new car, never going to be able to buy anything. Like FOMO consumed people to the point where we are seeing this collapse of the economy now. And today I'm walking down Crown Road here in Kentfield, California, and it kind of leads to like this little trail area through the woods. It's just so pretty walking through this forested area. And I'm going to miss spots like this because I'm going to be going back to Florida soon. So got to take advantage while I'm still here. So really the only thing you can do if you are a car owner who is underwater on your loan is you kind of just have to wait until you've paid off more of your loan balance before you trade it in. But if you do need to replace your car, which I don't know why you would need to if you just bought it a couple of years ago, you got to make sure that the next purchase is a sane one. It's got to be fitting your budget, and you should be looking at something that's considerably cheaper than what you bought before. And remember what I said a little while ago, part of the reason that brand new cars are so expensive right now in 2025 is actually because of electric vehicles. And this is not me attacking electric cars, this is just hard facts right here, guys. Right now, anybody who wants to own an electric vehicle, especially a brand new one, you still have to pay a premium for those cars, and it's mostly because they are more costly for automakers to produce them. The cost of a brand new electric vehicle hit $58,124 last month. And remember, the brand new average car price is $50,000. So that electric vehicle is a full $8,000 more. And it's interesting because when you look at the subsidies that we had, you know, getting that $7,500 tax credit before, when we still had those, kind of almost eliminates that cost difference between buying a gas-powered car and a brand new electric car. But now that the subsidy is gone, brand new electric vehicles are going to remain more expensive than gas cars indefinitely. According to Cox Automotive, they say that a brand new electric vehicle is traditionally about $9,000 more expensive than a gas-powered car, and higher prices for EVs is part of what drove up new car prices to record highs in September. And because so many people were trying to capitalize on getting those EV tax credits before they expired, actually there was a record amount of electric vehicle sales in September, where they accounted for 11.6% of all brand new car sales. Never happened before. But the data is clear that electric vehicles still cost considerably more than a gas-powered car unless you're looking to buy a used Tesla. Well, that's a different story. And also, the demand side of EVs is just not there, guys. Even though September saw record sales, that was largely because people were just trying to capitalize on that tax credit that was going to expire. But just 9 out of the 90 EV models that are sold in the US as of last quarter sold more than 10,000 units, according to Cox Automotive. And meanwhile, only 4 EV brands have reached operational profitability worldwide. And only one of them is an American automaker, which I'm sure you can guess which one it is. Of course, it's Tesla. The rest are all foreign companies, most notably BYD in China. And they say that one of the main challenges with producing electric vehicles and why the cost is so high is because people who buy them want to have range similar to a gas-powered car, because that's one of the biggest things that you give up when you trade over to an electric car is you are committing to having a shorter range, a shorter driving distance that car can get on one charge. And the problem is, if you want to have longer range, you need to have a bigger EV battery, which makes it more expensive. In fact, just the battery alone can account for 40% of a vehicle's total costs because they're made up of expensive materials like lithium or cobalt, which can cost thousands of dollars per ton, and bigger and heavier, more expensive batteries are often needed to meet the consumer's demands for range requirements. And the thing is, a lot of drivers are still hesitant to switch over to electric vehicles. I am absolutely one of them, because one of the biggest concerns is, where am I going to charge the car, right? That's a huge problem. Not only where am I going to charge the car, but also how long is it going to take to charge the car? And then when you throw in the range problems with it not getting as much range as a gas-powered car, those are 3 major negatives for a lot of people to switch over from gas to electric. I know until all 3 of those things are 100% solved and are equal to gas-powered cars, I will not be making the switch myself. And this is not just me saying this. This is direct data from J.D. Power. A study they did back in May asked consumers about what's their major hangup of switching from gas-powered to EV-powered vehicles. And more than half of them said charging availability. Because let's face it, if you don't have your own house and have the ability to just set up the charge station at your house and charge it with solar or some other inexpensive form of electricity, you have to go out of your way, find a charging station that's not broken, by the way, because many of them usually are broken. And then even once you find that, you have to wait. Maybe somebody's using it. And if no one's using it, you still have to sit there for a while just to get the charge. And if you want to charge faster, you have to pay more. And I'm going to talk more about charging speeds in a little while because I have some new information about that as well. But this has been the longest standing issue of why most people won't buy an electric car is charging availability. And the industry has responded to this in a couple of different ways. One, is they've been working on expanding their charging networks and improving the vehicle's range. And there has been notable improvements here. I mean, from 2011 to 2024, the median range of EVs went from 68 miles back in 2011 to 283 miles in 2024. So that is a good improvement. And I think most people would say, like, I don't really need it to be more than 283 miles. But the problem with that is there's more to the story. That's the full range from when you have it charged from 100% down to 0%. And you can't drive the car until it's down to 0% and hope to be able to find a charging place when that happens. Most people are not going to drag the car down to 0%. They're going to have to charge it before. And then once you actually do charge it, the fast charge only gets you up to 80%. If you want to go past 80% charge when you stop to charge the car up, you're going to have to wait significantly longer. So the range that you actually get on these EVs is a lot shorter than what you're being told on the sales sticker. especially when you account for different weather conditions or driving conditions. I mean, just driving up these mountain roads here in California, I'm sure significantly reduce the range of the car versus driving on a long flat highway, for example. Now, the cost to produce lithium-ion batteries has been dropping. According to Bloomberg, they say that prices for lithium-ion batteries dropped 20% in 2024, and major automakers like GM are investing in new battery technology that would use more common, less expensive minerals such as manganese or sodium to produce their batteries. And then we got to talk about how much money somebody could actually save over the life of owning an electric vehicle versus a gas-powered vehicle, because a lot of people think that they're going to be saving a ton of money, but the reality is the cost savings are really a lot smaller than you might imagine. Here's a perfect example of some data to back this up. The average age of a vehicle in the US is now 12.8 years, and that leaves a lot of time for consumers to spend on gas and maintenance, and that's where the cost comparison comes in. For example, if you were to buy a 2025 Nissan Leaf, that starts at $28,000, and over the course of 13 years, that Leaf owner would have paid about $63,000 as the cost of ownership for that car. And that's according to the U.S. Energy Department, so who knows how reliable that is. But we'll use their comparison here because this is all we got. And they calculate things like the estimated cost of fuel, tires, maintenance, registration, licensing, insurance, and loan payments. And over that same 13-year lifespan, if you were to buy a 2025 Kia Soul, which starts at $20,000, which is a whole $8,000 cheaper than the electric vehicle, that would also cost you $63,000. Basically no savings. If you were to buy a Toyota Corolla instead, they say that it would cost you $64,000 over those 13 years. So $1,000 more to own the Toyota Corolla. So without any real cost savings benefit of owning an electric vehicle, I think for most people it comes down to just preference and choice and convenience of charging. And if, say for example, if you're running your charging system off of solar panels and using one of those Tesla wall batteries to charge your Tesla, then you're getting energy essentially for free once you've invested in the car and the charging equipment. And that can be really adding up to some savings over the years, and also just skips you the hassle of ever having to go and fuel up at a gas station. That's also assuming you probably only drive distances pretty close to being within home. If you're somebody who takes regular long distance road trips, I'd be willing to bet you probably don't own one of those electric vehicles. And that brings me over to the charging issue, okay? Because only if you have a house with your own charging station where you can just let the car charge for hours on end without having to worry about how long it takes, the charge time is a giant negative. Especially if you're somebody that wants to take a road trip with the car, then you're stuck waiting for hours and hours to have the car charge every single time you want to go long distance. So in order to combat this problem, we are looking at improving our charging network here in the United States. Now, China is leading the way when it comes to charging speeds. Earlier this year, BYD announced the rollout of new chargers in China, charging at speeds of up to 1 megawatt, and these can add 250 miles of range in just 5 minutes. Now, that's pretty good. I would say that's pretty much equivalent to a gas-powered car in that case. Not the range, but as far as fill-up time. You know, most people are going to spend 5 minutes at the gas station on average. So if you can actually charge your car up to 250 miles of range in 5 minutes, that's a win for electric vehicles. But the most common type of electric charger here in the US is only 350 kilowatt hours. But ChargePoint, which is one of the nation's largest charging networks, is set to introduce 600 kilowatt chargers arriving next year in 2026. Why are they not making megawatt chargers like they are in China? I have no idea. And that's 100 kilowatts faster than the fastest charging stations we have right now in the US. So they say not only will this dramatically increase the charging speeds, but also the chargers themselves will be smaller, which means that you can have more of them in any one given place. Right now, existing EV fast chargers can get an EV's battery from 10% to 80% in under an hour. They say that like it's an achievement. You know, that's a long time to sit there and charge the battery, like I was saying. But these new chargers are supposed to be able to drop that time down to 10 minutes or less. So that is a notable improvement. But there is a catch, just like there always is, guys. What is the catch? Well, your electric car that you own right now isn't going to be compatible with these new electric vehicle chargers. So everybody who owns an EV today, as I'm making this video, is not going to be able to use these new 600 kilowatt hour chargers. So what does that mean for you? It means if you want to continue having an electric vehicle, then you must buy a brand new one, because only brand new ones looking forward are going to be able to support this level of charging. How fun is that? Right now, as of 2025, the Lucid Gravity is the fastest charging EV you can buy with speeds up to 400 kilowatt hours. The new chargers are going to be 600 kilowatt hours. And they say even though we're going to get these new chargers, it's going to be a while before a lot of people have the EVs that can fully take advantage of how fast these chargers actually are. So the charging technology is actually going to be outpacing the vehicles themselves. So these new chargers are only going to realize their full potential once there's enough brand new electric vehicles out in the world that can actually utilize it. This means that you have to buy a brand new car. And I just told you that brand new car prices are already at record high prices. And I'd be willing to bet that if you want one of these brand new cars that supports this fast charging feature, well, you're probably going to have to pay a premium for that. And the reason why I sound so pessimistic about this, guys, is because I'm not against you if you want to drive an electric car. I have no qualms about it. You know, knock yourself out. Everybody has their preference for things in life. Who am I to say what you should or shouldn't drive? I really don't care. But there's been a lot of pretend and make-believe about how electric vehicles are so superior to gas-powered cars, yet in every facet, they are inferior when it comes to fill-up times versus charging times, when it comes to range that the vehicles can get, when it comes to charging accessibility versus gas station accessibility. And the only way to improve that in the future is to buy a brand new EV that's going to cost you a record amount of money. So it's no wonder why the United States, as well as the rest of the world, is now starting to walk away from this EV trend. Everybody kept saying that electric vehicles were the future, but there is new data out to support that that is not the case. And many of these automakers are losing literally billions of dollars. GM is one of them, as well as Ford Motors is another one that has lost over $1 billion betting on the electric vehicle market, and it just hasn't worked out for them. Of course, they're blaming moves by the government recently to end the EV subsidies, but we wouldn't need electric vehicle subsidies if people actually wanted to buy them, right? They would just sell on their own. If they were such a superior product and everybody wanted them so badly, they would be outselling gas-powered cars by the millions, but they're not. And ultimately, this is kind of a lesson in, government interference. When you look at subsidies for everything, typically they've made everything that's subsidized more expensive in the past. And even though with the electric vehicles, they were making them cheaper or at least equal to gas-powered cars for a while, now that the subsidies are gone, they're back to being more expensive again. Automakers themselves have recently been coming out and saying that consumers are not adopting EVs as quickly as expected. The chairman of Nissan just said there is more realism that EVs are probably a good solution in the future, but it's not going to be forced down the throat of consumers. In other words, you can't force people to adopt something that they don't want to. After all, consumers vote with their wallets. If they don't buy something, then it's unprofitable to create that product, and a lot of manufacturers are going to stop making it and switch to whatever is profitable. That's how economics work. A lot of car makers are saying that the EV business model is completely unprofitable, and a lot of them are paring back their EV offerings altogether because it's not profitable. Volkswagen's kind of been leading the charge on this in Europe when it said it was going to cut 35,000 jobs as a part of a deal with its union. And prior to now in Europe, they had a target for cutting carbon emissions down to zero by the year 2035. And it looks like they're going to be revisiting that real soon because they're realizing that is not going to be a realistic goal for Europe. In fact, take a look at some of these charts here. This shows you the projected sales in the US of where things are going with the auto industry. And you can see that projected sales moving forward are in favor of gasoline-powered cars. Hybrids are second on the list, which is not surprising at all. I've seen every time I've talked about this in the comments section that a lot of people keep saying, I like hybrids, I don't want an electric car. I like hybrids. They get the best of both worlds, increases my gas mileage substantially. This is the technology that they should be leaning in towards. And the sales kind of reflect that. This is the second most adopted vehicle type right now. Electric vehicle sales are projected to actually go down the most, and plug-in hybrids are kind of flat. Meanwhile, in Europe, you can see electric vehicle sales are projected to continue going down, while the hybrid vehicle sales in Europe are on the rise. And plug-in hybrids are only seeing a marginal improvement. Really only in China is the only region of the world where electric vehicle sales are projected to still dominate and continue to go up. But does it really count what China's doing? Because let's face it, guys, that's a communist country, and they're kind of told what to do over there. The government tells you to drive an electric car, or they say, this is the type of car you need to have, and this is the cheapest type of car to have. Well, that's what people are going to do over there. Versus here in America, where we still have some level of freedom at least, people get to choose. And even with the government subsidies, that wasn't enough to push most people towards driving electric. So these automakers have no choice but to look at producing vehicles that people actually want to buy worldwide. When the entire world, besides China, is saying we want more gas-powered cars, we want more hybrid cars, we don't want the electric cars, what do you think they're going to have to do? They're going to have to give people what they want. And if they don't, automakers that are willing to come in and serve that need are going to be the ones who win. And even in China, where EV sales and EV adoption has been the highest, that adoption has been coming at the expense of profitability for these Chinese automakers. Because it's a completely oversaturated market over there, it's predicted that most of the 118 EV brands operating there as of 2023 will not be viable in 5 years from now. So all these EV startups that jumped on the bandwagon, most of them are not going to survive the EV transition. And China's the strongest EV market in the entire world. If the electric vehicle automakers can't survive over there, there's no chance they're going to be able to survive in Europe and the United States without giving people what they want. And so ultimately, this is a lesson in economics, guys, because in the US, it's now predicted that EVs will make up about 18% of brand new vehicle sales by 2030, which is only about half of what it expected just 2 years ago. So they massively overestimated the electric vehicle adoption rate, not only here in America, but all throughout the rest of the world. And let's not forget, that is with subsidies that we had over the past 4 or 5 years, that $7,500 tax credit to get that brand new car. That's with used Teslas costing as low as $15,000 or $20,000 right now today in 2025. And so ultimately, I'm not saying that nobody should own one of these cars or that no one wants them, because clearly a lot of people do drive them and they do want them, but that is a minority. This is not the majority of people out there. It is still a niche product, so to speak, in the auto industry. And so far, it looks like the chances of it becoming mainstream are not looking good. When only 18% of people in the US are going to be driving an electric car by 2030, that's still 5 years from now. And I remember seeing comments on my channel from people saying, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about, Michael. Look at what they're doing in China. Look how cheap they are to produce those BYD cars over there. It's only a matter of time before the whole world is driving electric cars. That's what everybody was saying. Well, even in China, they're having a hard time with it over there. Even though the adoption rate is high at over 60%, these companies can't produce a profit because the cars are not profitable to make. So in China, they are trying to sustain a system that is unsustainable. Kind of like what we do here in the US with a lot of things. And so the real economic lesson here is that you just can't force people to buy something that they don't want. And it really sucks that This whole initiative and agenda to push electric vehicles on people has caused car prices for brand new cars across the board to rise to record high prices. And all of that just sounds like poor economic decisions in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here. And I'll see you in the next one.